reports were saying that the Warriors and the Clippers were among teams who had sent in inquiries for Chris Paul. Lakers have actually emerged as a team that could potentially land Chris Paul, but they said that they're only willing to pay him the vet minimum. Do you see Chris Paul staying in Washington, or do you see him getting dealt away?
No, he's not going to go to Washington. He's not in the point of his career right now. He doesn't need to go to Washington.
Yeah.
He needs to go to a team. He's going to have to take a tremendous pay cut. He's not at the level anymore where you're going to pay Chris Paul $30 million a year. I don't know what the number is. That's something that Chris will have to figure out with himself personally, what he's willing to pay for. But I think if he wants to win an NBA championship, he has to be looking at joining one of these teams, these teams that are stacked and where he can play a role. It may not be the starting role. As you get older in your career, there's nothing wrong with coming off the bench and playing a role. I won a championship with a guy named Gary Payton, who played behind Jason Williams. He let Jason Williams start, but Gary Payton closed out every game.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, so it can work out. It's just a matter of what guys are willing to accept at this point in his career. Chris Paul is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's nothing wrong but playing behind a young guard at this point in his career. Yeah. Those are some of the things you have to take. That's why I had so much respect for Carmelo Anthony when he came back. He took whatever role a team was willing to give him and flourished in it when he was coming off the bench in L.A. because he still wanted to play the game. So I think that's something that Chris Paul has to look himself in the mirror and say, maybe he's not running the team anymore. Maybe he's going to be on the team playing 20, 25 minutes a night, backing up. But he may be the closer.
Yeah.
And Gary Payton, I can use that example because I saw Gary Payton do it and being on a team with him. He played behind Jason Williams. He had no problem with that. Mm-hmm. But he closed every game out because what? He was our best defensive guard. He can guard anybody ones and twos. And his leadership, he knows how to win games. So it's just a matter of what Chris wants to do. Chris is in a great and unique position. He's one of our smarter point guards to ever play the game. So he'll make the right decision for him. But I think he should be willing to come off the bench and play behind a young guard and then close games out.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in his career, it'd be a sacrifice that's certainly worth it, right? I mean, because his only knock, if it means to be on a contender, because his only knock has been, where's your ring? That's it. So, I mean, yeah, Ashley, what are your thoughts on this situation? And of those teams that were considered, Clippers, Lakers, Warriors, which team also makes the most sense for Chris Paul right now?
Well, that's the key word, and Antoine hit it right there, is he has to be willing.
Yeah.
I think the Clippers would be a fantastic fit for Chris Paul, but he has to be willing to take a pay cut. And part of me wants to believe that he's willing to do that, but the majority part of me finds it hard to believe that a player who a few years ago, Chris Paul hasn't really changed in terms of his skill set as to where he is currently as a player in the past few years. It's been pretty much continuous. Like his skill set has been pretty much continuous. Consistent. Like he hasn't fallen off more, but he hasn't gotten better. He's been the same, right? But I remember that he wanted a massive payday, being pretty much the version of Chris Paul we see now. So for me, it's hard to believe that a player who wanted to be paid like a top tier point guard, like the Chris Paul of Lob City or the Chris Paul of New Orleans, not that long ago, when he was basically the same version of Chris Paul he is in present day, is going to be willing to take a massive pay cut to join a team like the Clippers. I would like to believe it. I think it would be beneficial to him because I still believe that he can, when in the right situation, utilized in the right way, can still be an instrumental part of a team. It's just hard for me to believe that someone who wanted that kind of a payday, when he, like I said, was pretty much the version of Chris Paul that he is right now, is going to be willing to take the pay cut necessary to go ahead and join a team like that. We're talking $30 million.
Yeah, no,
hefty. That would have to be cut bare minimum in half, if not a little bit less. Is he willing to do that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's willing to do that.
That minimum is less than $3 million right now.
Oh my gosh!
So I don't know if he's taking.
You're talking about going from 30 M's to 4.
2.5.
Almost, in that area. 2.5.
I mean,
that's tough.
I can't see him doing that. It would be like, whoa, if he did, like he really is serious about winning this ring. Is he going to do that? I don't know. I don't even see him taking half a pay cut, and even half would be better than a vet min. Right. I would even be okay with, all right, he's not going to take the vet minimum, whatever. I get it. I would even be okay with half of $30 million. I can't even see him doing that.
Yeah, so I feel like that already X's out Lakers and Warriors. As far as organizations that might have money to pay him. So it's like maybe that Clippers spot actually makes the most sense.
I just wanted to touch, like, what do you think about that offer Dwight Howard had for him a couple weeks back in Taiwan, Ashley? You think that might be an option? Get that $30 million back?
Like Antoine said, though, there comes a point where you have to really think about the player that you are and not the player that you were. And there's no shame in that. Like he said, we're talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer. We're talking about the point guard. We're talking about one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game. Like, nobody can take that from Chris Paul. Yeah. But there comes a point where you have to go ahead and think about who you are and not who you were. And I know people will say, well, he's looking for a buyout and a release. Okay, but if he doesn't get that, what's plan B? Right. And if you really want to win a ring and you know that you don't have many years left to do that, is the money more? Is it holding on to the money more, which is, I'm going to call it an empty salary, because you had the money, but you're not going to be part of a team that can win something. Or is it the rationale of like, I've made a bunch of money, now it's time for me to try to get that piece of hardware? It's a matter of what's more important to him, and only he can answer that question.
Well, there's only one thing guaranteed in this conversation. That's his money. So that's really what it comes down to. And everybody financial situation is different. If that, like you said, if it's about winning a championship, because there's no guarantee you're going to win that. So the only thing guaranteed is the only thing you win. The only thing is guaranteed is money. Now I'll tell you this: there's nothing wrong. I won a championship. It's one of the greatest feelings I've ever had. It's one of the greatest accomplishments that I've ever had in my life. So I'm not going to say it's not important, but at the end of the day, I don't see too many teams, giving back money and working their way around it. So if you've earned the right and that just due for that money, I think sometimes you got some business too.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Antoine. I'm gonna pose this question to you. If you're Chris Paul, and JP can correct me on the numbers, but I think Chris Paul has made, if I had to guess, probably $300+ million in his career between business endeavors, endorsements, on the court, everything.
Current date, 359 in just NBA.
Okay, so that's $359 million, right?
That's a lot of money.
If you had a $30 million contract on the table and say a buyout was not an option, and you had that kind of money, that was your net worth, that was your money, and it could even be greater than that. We don't know what his real estate portfolio and what other investments he has that may have not gone public yet. So let's just say 360 is what we know. If you were told, listen, a buyout is not an option for you, Antoine, but if you cut this salary in half, we can move you to a team that can possibly win something. Are you holding on to that money? Or are you saying, I made X amount of money, now it's time for me to win a ring, because I can't do both. I can't hold on to $30 million and go to a team that's good. Like, where would you be in this argument right now?
If I'm judging him, and I don't know everything he's accomplished in his career, I can just know the things that he's accomplished. I would give up half for a legitimate chance, but I would have to really look at the team, and I know it's no guarantee just because the team. But if I'm going to a situation where I have a legitimate chance with this team to win an NBA title, and I'm looking at my body, and I'm just judging. I'm on the outside looking in. To me, Chris Paul probably has 1 year left. He's been injury prone over the last couple of years. If I got 1 year left, hell, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give back half of my salary to go to a team and give it a shot. And
so would you give up half for a team? I'm gonna give you 3 teams: Clippers, Warriors, Lakers. Any of those 3 teams, are you giving up half?
To play with the Lakers, I would. If I could play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, I would do it.
But okay, what about Clippers? Would you give up 80% though, as opposed to half? I'm Kawhi too iffy for me.
What about Golden State?
Paul. I think the run's over. I think it doesn't, him, Steph Curry together in the backcourt impress me. I don't think they complement each other really well.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so just the Lakers.
Just the Lakers.
Okay.
Just the Lakers. Because I've seen LeBron James play with a Kyrie Irving. I know he can play without the ball and still be effective. I know how good Chris Paul and Anthony Davis can be in the pick and roll, how he can be effective, how he can help that game. But I think Chris Paul with the Lakers will help those other guys too really well. Because now you add another playmaker. You got to remember, LeBron's really the only playmaker on the Lakers. Yeah. You know, so now I get another playmaker who can get other guys shots. He's going to make other guys better too. Yeah. But yeah, I like half. More than full. I like half if Chris is willing to give up half his salary to put himself in a situation to win the championship. But it's got to be with the right team, though, Ash. It can't just be giving up half my salary to play. It's got to be a team that I really believe that we can win it, and try to. I mean, obviously, you don't know if you're gonna win it, but it's got to give me the best chance to win it.
100%, I agree with that completely. It has to be a contender. It has to be a team that has the possibility there. I wouldn't expect him to give it up to go play, no shade, to the Portland Trailblazers. Like, no, it has to be a team that there is a promise and there is a chance. Yeah. Because a chance is more than he has if he holds on to the whole 30 million. It's going to be a team that can afford to pay him, but they're not going to go anywhere. So
what about the 76ers? If James Harden leaves, they need a point guard. And they already got a good
I don't
squad.
think Philly works only because they would require too much of Chris Paul.
Okay.
If James Harden leaves, that now he's point guard number one. I don't think we've already seen you cannot put that strain on him. Yeah. He needs to go someplace that he's not expected to play a full game, that you could load manage him. You could even possibly not start him in the beginning of the season, because if you start him, let's say you start him November, right? Which it's really end of October, but let's say start of the season. Come post All-Star break, you're not going to have him. Like, you're not. Yeah. Come April, he's going to have no legs. Like, you can't do that.
It's probably better to have him come off the bench.
I remember how Antoine kind of put it at the beginning of the show. Like, I think he's just that veteran point guard that comes in and just close games, right? Like a Gary Payton. Isn't that how you had told the story?
Yeah, Gary played the fourth quarters.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want to really boil it down to it, he was playing because he can defend. He's going to make the right play. And not taking anything away from Jason Williams. Jason Williams is actually great for us. He played terrific. But Gary's that veteran guy, he can guard multiple positions. He's going to help you get stops. He takes a lot of pressure off D Wade and having to guard that star two guard. Yep. It was just a lot of different ways we was able to use Gary to help D Wade out.
Yep.
And different ways that Jason Williams couldn't help him out.
Yeah, no, you're right. And honestly, we saw the Heat do that with Kyle Lowry, too. If you watched the Heat game, of course, I was somebody who watched them very closely. But Kyle Lowry was typically the point guard in the game to close the games, and we saw less of Gabe Vincent. It was kind of like that same dynamic. And I think Chris Paul can serve, as that same type of point guard for somebody. So we'll see what happens with Chris Paul.